And then you can do some kissing and stuff like that if you want, but that's like a whole other conversation you'd have with the client. And then you flip them around and, give them the good old happy ending.
Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone out there who wants to be a part of the show, if you feel like you have a story or something unique that you want to share with us, you can go to oplshow.com or send us an email directly at oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and shout out to all the patrons out there. If you want to become a patron and support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/OPL show. You'll support the show, but you'll also get weekly behind the scenes episodes, access to our Discord channel to chat with us, previous guests, other listeners, and you'll also get other bonus content that never appears on this main channel. So go check that out at patreon.com/OPL show. So let's get into today's topic. We received an email from a woman that says, I work at an erotic massage parlor. Not even like trying to be funny here, but for everyone to just understand, it basically, happy endings, I guess, is like the universal term for this. And we're kind of just going to jump right into this world and see what it's like, working there, interacting with the guests, how someone gets into that. So we've got the guests on the line right now, and thanks for being on the show.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So I just called it happy endings. I'm sure you have a better explanation of kind of what exactly an erotic massage parlor is. Can you just kind of, give us the definition and basically an overview of what goes on at this type of massage parlor?
Right, yeah. So it's basically what you said. It's basically a happy ending. My friends and I just usually say we just jerk dick there for fun. But basically what happens is the guy and the girl, they both get naked. They get on a bed or like a massage table. And then the hostess or the MA, and MA is a massage attendant. She starts giving him a massage, and then she'll start doing a thing called a body slide. So basically, she'll dump some oil on her and a little bit on him, and then she kind of rubs her body all over him. And it sounds stupid, but it actually feels really good. And then you can do some kissing and stuff like that if you want, but that's like a whole other conversation you'd have with the client beforehand or during. And then you flip them around and, give them the good old happy ending.
All right. That's a really clear explanation.
Pretty, yeah. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I'm assuming this is all like legal, because here in the States, I mean, you can't do that. So like,
Yeah, it's legal here. I'm in Canada. So long as there's no sex, though, I mean, that can happen too. It's perfectly legal.
Wait, if there is sex, then it is illegal?
It's illegal, yeah, because it's prostitution. And then it could be considered a brothel, and the owners could be considered pimps and all that good stuff.
But like hand jobs are not considered.
Yeah, apparently not.
To be honest, in Canada, like I've been to places in Canada and they're kind of all over. Like it's like Starbucks, erotic massage parlor, Dunkin' Donuts, or well, actually no, that's very American. Whatever, Tim Hortons massage parlor. So they're, it's definitely just like, I guess, part of the culture there. So I'm curious, like, is that, for you to get into this, I guess, what's kind of the story of, what made you want to get into this? Is it just a job to make money? Is it like a passion of yours?
Well, it's for money. I'm a lesbian, so it's farthest thing from wanting to hook up with a guy. But my coworker told me about her best friend who worked at one of these places, and we were working at the time, so I couldn't really get into depth with her, but she basically just said, like, they're happy endings. And I didn't know how much money you'd make at the time, but down the road, like a few months later, I Googled it. And still there isn't a lot online about how much each person makes, so I figured I'd just go in and, like, try it out and go from there. Did that answer the question? I'm so sorry. It's word of mouth, basically. I'm so sorry. I'm all over I'm so nervous.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So all right. How much is one of these massages, and is it like built into a price, or is it something that you just kind of discuss with a client as it's going on?
So it depends. So like I mentioned in the email, I worked at two places. So the first place I was a receptionist for almost a year. So I saw a lot of shit. There, it's a set price, and the client has to pay the MA at the end of the session. Whereas at the second place where I became an MA, the client goes in, he pays a set fee for the room, and then once he's in the room with the girl, they can kind of debate how much they want to pay for the session. But typically, for like an hour-long session, it's around $180 between the cost of the room itself and paying for the MA.
Okay, that's.
If I were to do an hour-long session as an MA, I'd make $100 minimum.
Wow.
Okay. And so this full hour is basically made up of the person comes in, you said you go through kind of the normal massage, the body slide, and then finish it off with the happy ending.
Yeah, pretty much. You could do more than that. I mean, I don't judge, but I always think it's kind of weird when guys want more than that because they're just essentially paying for like a happy ending. But like some guys will have fetishes, some guys want to make out and touch the girl, and then some people just full on have sex.
So do you participate in any of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
it's good money, it adds up. So it's at first I didn't, but yeah.
What about so like the fetish kind of things? I mean, how do you kind of work out the pricing in your head? Like what do you consider a fair price? And if something like some sort of kink that someone wants to kind of indulge in, like how do you price that out?
So it's typically $50, give or take, maybe 10 or $20. But if it's more kinky, you can charge a lot more money. So like if a guy's like really into BDSM and he wants you to use toys on him and stuff, like obviously you can bargain more money, as opposed to just the $50 because it's not really worth doing certain things for $50.
Yeah, totally. But that's interesting. So like men there will just kind of be open with you and say, I'm into this. And then it's just what kind of like a negotiation, like how much to pee on you or how much for you to like put something in my ass. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it depends on the girl, really. I think for a golden shower, it would be $100 to $200 at least. I've never done one of those sessions. I know one of my coworkers got paid to poop in someone's mouth.
What?
I think she got paid an extra $200 or $300 for that. Wow. Yeah, I know. I would love to. I would do that, no problem.
You would?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I'd set it off too, but probably for like $400.
But then you also get paid for the session itself, and then if you have like another 3 or 4 or 5, 6 or 6 sessions, it really adds up.
Now, is sex the most expensive add-on? And how do you kind of negotiate and handle that? Because like you said, that now you've technically, and don't worry, we're not going to tell anyone, like you've technically crossed the line into, okay, now it's a prostitution session. But what do you charge for that? And are you like selective about who you decide to do that with? How does that kind of work?
Well, it depends from every spa. So I know the first one I worked at, I think the girls, nobody really talked about it. So girls could charge however much they wanted because the guys knew not to discuss other girls' prices with the person they're seeing. But at the spa I worked at as an MA, it kind of sucked, but it was a set price of $200 total for the entire session. It's not a lot of money, but the boss, like the owner said, it can't be more than that unless it's Greek, but it can't be more than that because they want to stay competitive.
That doesn't seem expensive.
I know, it really doesn't. So guys pay around $300 just to get full service.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money. It really sucks.
Do you get a lot of like American men?
From time to time, yeah. We have a few regulars who'd come in from like New York State, since it was just a few hours drive from where I was living, but it's mostly local guys.
Wow. And yeah, I mean, like Greg was saying, I mean, I'm more shocked at the fact that it's like $300 and you can get someone to shit in your mouth. Like I figure, like if I was into that, I would be like, well, I gotta really pay up for this. You know what I mean?
This place is like it's like a fantasy land where like all your dreams can come true for not that much money, to be honest.
If you can afford it, yeah, because it also becomes addicting. Like I remember there was one day as a receptionist, I let in the same guy 3 times
In a day?
In a day, in a shift, in like a 6-hour period. He came in 3 times.
Yeah. What was he asking for?
I think just your basic session.
Oh.
I didn't get the specifics of it, but I'm like, one session alone, like, I mean, for him to have had 3 sessions, it would have been around 600.
Yeah. No,
So
that adds up.
So you do 6-hour shifts. Like, how many clients do you usually see in a day?
So that's when I was a receptionist, but when I was in MA, I would work typically from 4 to 11 or 5 to 9, and I usually would see anywhere between 3 to 7 guys.
It's the night shift too. I feel like it's better money. I don't know.
It's also really busy though in the daytime.
Yeah.
Which always confuses me, but guys come in during their lunch rush, and if they have an hour-long shift or...
That's why Canadians are so nice.
Wow.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I also had a job while I was working at the spa, so I could only really work evenings.
Got it. Okay, so what I'm curious, and then we can move on from money, but so you say 200 for sex or even 180 for the session. I'm assuming some of that goes back to the massage parlor. Like, how much are you seeing of that? Is it kind of a fair split in your mind?
Yes and no. So I hate to go back and forth, but I like at the 2 spas I worked at were completely different. So the first place, the guy pays the girl, and then after he leaves and there's no other guys around, she comes to settle with the house. So that would be the receptionist working. And like I said, for an hour, it was at the time it was $180, but it's went up recently. So the hostess would owe the house $80, and she'd keep $100.
Okay.
Now, if she has, if you have, it doesn't matter how many sessions you have in the entire shift, you owe a $10 cleaning fee.
That you pay?
Yeah, that you pay out of pocket. And I never really understood. I always thought that was too much money to hand over to the house, but then I found out the building or the space it's in, it costs $20,000 a month just in rent.
Jesus.
So they have to find ways to, bring in the money. But at the other place where I was in MA, I actually don't know how much it costs for the room. It's roughly around the same amount.
Got it.
So it's fair if you think about how much everything costs. But no, I definitely think girls should be making a bit more money because, they do put themselves in harm's way.
Right.
What is the hiring process like for this job?
So basically you find one of the websites and then you go to contact, and you can either text one of like a phone number or you can send an email, basically introducing yourself. Some people ask you to send photos just to see if you are fit, essentially. Basically, I hate to say it. And if you are and they think you could be a good fit, they just basically bring you in for an interview, and they ask if you've been involved in sex work before. What are your expectations? Like, they kind of go over the rules. I remember during my interview with the second place I worked at, she told me I couldn't bring any pets. And I was like, why would I bring a pet? And she said, oh, we had a girl bring her pet goat in once. So it's like a very chillaxed place. They basically just, pet goat during like a 7-hour shift, and just hung out in the back room. But they just want to make sure you're nice and you're not going to cause drama. You're not like an alcoholic or a drug addict, and, or getting trafficked. It's really easy to get hired.
So you don't have to be like a licensed like massage.
No, my boss had one for Quebec. I live in Ontario and we're near the Quebec border. And she got a license from the Quebec side. I don't know if it's allowed to be used here, but the girls, for whatever reason, don't need to have one.
I guess it's not as much about the massage as it is, about where it ends up.
So I was going to say, does anyone ever come in here of being like, I'm good on all this, my back hurts?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One time I had a duo. This guy pulls up in a limo. He's dressed in like a cowboy outfit, and he's a little drunk, and he's with his best friend. They just came from like a sports game. And he picks me and this other girl, and we're like, all right, like, what are you okay with? And we had a bit of a conversation because sometimes when there's 2 or more girls in a session, the client wants the girls to do stuff with each other. Yeah. So we're like, what are you comfortable with? We had that whole conversation. And then we go in, and he's like, I don't even guys want you to jerk me off. I just want you to put your elbows as hard as you can into every muscle of my body. And at one point, my coworker was like walking on him, like for an hour straight. We're in our lingerie. Usually we're naked, but we're like pushing as hard as we can into every single bone in his body. It's not the norm, but it happens every so often.
Interesting.
I think they just want like a cute, sexy girl massaging him as opposed to going into like a nice spa. Well, you know, other spa.
If it's around the same price. And yeah, I mean, so in terms of like the actual massage and like the skill, I guess. So like, okay, you're not a licensed massage therapist, but you still want to do a good job all around, I assume. So like, how did you kind of learn that? Because it's like a performance in a way, right? The whole, when you really try to picture this whole thing unfolding, it's like you said, so they pick you, like the guy picks you, then you go into the room. Like, it's like immediately now, in a sense, you're, I guess, in character, you could say, but you know, you have to be sexy, you have to give the massage, then you have to finish it off. Like, it's just a lot of work on your end. So like, where did you like learn, or how do you like develop your style or technique?
So you actually just really talk with your coworkers, or like when you first start, you do training. So you actually shadow a girl in a session, and she shows you like everything you need to do, and she shows you like some good techniques that are like proven to work. But then during our off times, you can hang out in the lounge or in like the staff room, and girls will practice on each other.
Interesting.
Yeah, and as for persona and like personality and all that stuff, you kind of just come up with your own, or it depends on the client. So like you could have a client that is really creepy and you see him all the time and you're going to be a bit more guarded, or you're not going to fully be yourself. But then you might have a guy coming in and he's really nice and open and honest and stuff like that, and you're going to feel like you can be yourself more. Which is what I usually lean towards, because I'm too lazy to come up with a persona. But a lot of girls will like discuss ways to not manipulate the guy, but make them think they're a lot more sexy and sensual than they actually are.
Mm-hmm. Or like enjoying it more, because like you started off, basically you said you're a lesbian, so it's like, you're not necessarily getting, or you're not getting the pleasure that the guy is getting, that's for sure.
Not at all.
So to keep that persona up as well while doing this, and you know, in their mind they're creating their own fantasies about you, or probably think, you know, oh, she's definitely enjoying this, or like, oh, this is the nicest dick she's seen all day, like, and you're just like, are you like are you like thinking about other things, or are you just like, I don't know, how do you like go through that mentally?
So we have mirrors like covering the walls, so guys can kind of glance and he can like check out the girl as she's like doing her thing. And I try to smile as I'm doing it, so it looks like I'm having fun. And it's not that I'm not having fun, but like I think about dinner, you know, and what I'm doing later, or like a conversation I want to get back to when I like leave the room. Mm-hmm. I totally just forgot what I was saying. I'm so sorry. But basically, I just try to be myself and open and outgoing, and a lot of guys kind of fall for it. I've had a lot of guys ask me out. A lot of them have offered to drive me home, asked for my phone number. One guy asked for my Facebook, which you're not supposed to give for obvious reasons. But I'm just really good, I guess, at making guys think that I want them. And apparently not many girls go to that effort. So I don't know I think maybe I'm just compensating, because maybe I'm like so obviously not attracted to them. And some of the girls are. I know a lot of girls will date clients, but I guess I really have to push myself to seem more straight, I guess you could say, or like really into it.
Do you guys, do women come into the parlor?
Sometimes. I've never had a session with a girl, but it happens maybe every other week. It's not a common thing by any means, and like the rules with them are completely different than with guys, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. But then you also get couples coming in too.
There's like what percentage would you say like couples are coming in there? Are they in the same room, or they're like separated?
No, they're together. So at the first place I worked at, it was a lot more common. I'd say maybe like 5% are couples, but that's because there's 3 types of rooms. There were rooms with like massage tables, and then there's quite a few rooms with like double-sized beds, and then there's one room with a king-size bed.
Oh, wow.
So you can really spread out. Like I've taken naps in there before, whereas at the other place, it's just massage tables. So if there's more than 2 people, it's really awkward and uncomfortable. So it doesn't happen all that often.
Do you feel like powerful in a sense when you are doing this? Like the kind of like skill that you have, or the fact that you know this guy is like enjoying it so much, or that like at least you're like inducing pleasure. Like do you get any pleasure out of that, or is it at this point just kind of like muscle memory, like this is my job, I'm here to get paid?
It's a bit of both. It really depends on the guy, because some guys can finish in like not even 5 minutes, but I've had sessions where it's taken a guy 2 hours.
Jeez, got to pay extra.
Well, no, he ended up having, I think, 3 separate sessions. I was in for most of it. I think I ducked out at the 90-minute mark, but he just would not come. But I feel nice and powerful right as I know they're finishing, because then I'm like, okay, we can start to clean up. Like the pressure's off me now.
End of the shift. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and it becomes routine, and I know for some people it's exciting at first, like for the MA. But it's like, okay, like I've just jerked like dick number 2, and I know I have like 3 more sessions after this, and like then I can go home and like
right.
da 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 da. So it does become muscle memory, and you learn some techniques.
When you go into a session every single time, like, all right, I know I'm gonna have to like jerk this guy off or something. Like there's no like chance of it not happening, is my point.
Yeah,
unless
and,
they
like,
ask.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some sessions where the guys don't even be touched at all, but we can get into that later. But no, when my friend told me about this place, she said, yeah, she just jerks dick all day. So I knew, I had an idea of what I was getting myself into, and I didn't do the research. I probably should have, but like I was okay with it because I've had sugar daddies in the past. But it is a bit of a shock, because like my first day, my boss was like, okay, like go say hi to the girls, and I go into the back and they're all like butt naked. And I was like, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm new. And then they're all kind of staring at you, and then eventually you go into a session, and that's when you like learn everything. But girls don't typically talk about what's involved in the session until you're in the session, because they'd rather talk about other things.
This is a weird question that came to mind, but just when you were, and there's no professional way to word this really, but when you're just talking about like finishing the shift and stuff, do you like try to make the guys come quick and like get it over with? And do you have like a finishing move that works like 99% of the time?
Well, it depends. So I know that guys who, if they come in for full service, a lot of them don't want to be there for the full hour. They got things to do, and they know they can finish in like less time than that. So sometimes I'll rush it. But no, you have to gauge whether or not you think they'll come quickly, which is really hard to figure out.
How do you gauge that? Yeah.
You can't really. You just have to see how they kind of react to everything. Like you don't want to give a massage and a body slide for too long in case, they want to make out and stuff, or like touch you. And like that could get them aroused enough to finish themselves. But you don't want to spend too much time or too little time on one thing and focus on like the end game. Because you have to guess essentially when they're going to finish, and you don't want to finish too early, because then it looks like you're trying to get more money out of them. Like say if you have an hour-long session and you're going to make $100, but you're able to get them out in half an hour, they're going to think they got robbed of that time because they paid for half an hour,
Yeah, that's kind of stressful for you.
I would think.
Yeah, it sucks. But I do have a finishing move. It's a little TMI, so I'm sorry. But I don't know what it's called. When you squeeze your boobs and then you like rub their dick in between it?
A boob job?
Yeah, I have pretty nice tits. So it's really, I guess it looks good. And like if you can get the tip of their dick close enough to your chin, they think you're gonna, and the thought of that can also get them to finish, but that's usually my finishing move. Yeah.
Interesting.
Good to know.
Is there any worry about like STDs?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The girls are like, everyone's really careful. And if a guy has, if he looks sick, like if it looks like he might have warts or something, obviously the girl won't even go near him. I know the girls get tested regularly, and like it's a criteria for working there. Then obviously, if they do anything that involves penetration, then there has to be protection. I know there was one guy. This wasn't me, but my friend told me she had a session with him, and he looked completely healthy. Everything was good, and when he finished, his cum looked like curdled cheese.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I think she went and got tested after that because she had no reason to think he was like ill or anything until that point.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know that was possible.
It's not a good surprise. Separate from even just like being careful with STDs, have you ever felt just unsafe because, you know, you're naked in a room with a sexually aroused male? I mean, I'm sure that's something that might take getting used to, but did you ever feel unsafe, or has it always been pretty good experiences?
Generally, it's pretty good, but there have been a few times I've been assaulted.
Oh.
Yeah, and the place I was an MA at took it seriously, so I always felt comfortable going into a room because I knew I could walk out, and they would kick the guy out within seconds. But I know at the first place I worked at, the boss wouldn't ban people if they brought money in. So if it was a regular, she would not kick him out. She wouldn't ban him because if he's bringing in hundreds of dollars a week, she has better incentive to keep him around than not and just blacklist him from seeing a girl. But aside from the assaults, no, I don't think I've ever felt unsafe.
Yeah, but it's scary to hear.
Is this something that you like kind of plan on doing, you know, long term, or is there something else that you would want to do?
So I've got some student loans I've got to pay off, so I'm just kind of hoping to get those out of the way. It's quite a bit of money, and I could rake in $2,000 easily a week. And so I could have, I mean, I'm not there at the moment. I'm hoping to go back soon, but I could get that out of the way within a year. And then after that, I might want to work a bit longer just to get some savings and like so I can travel and stuff like that. But no, it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. But I know a lot of people do because the money gets really addicting.
Yeah, it's like we've spoken to like strippers before too, and it's the same thing. It's like this was initially a plan to pay off loans or save up a certain amount, but then it's like when do you cut it off and when do you transition? Because now I'm gonna go get another job where I probably have to work more hours but make less money, and it's probably tough to like decide when and how to like make that transition.
Yeah, and like what I've seen too is I've had a lot of friends come into it with full-time jobs or even part-time jobs making minimum wage, and up here it's $14 an hour. But within weeks they've quit their jobs, and I always tell them like, no, I think you should find a second job. And it's not like I'm whorephobic or anything like that, but the longer you're away from like a civvy job, like a normal everyday person job, the harder it's going to be to like reintegrate.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always kept something steady just to keep my resume looking good. So when I do decide to quit, it's not like I'm quitting cold turkey and I'll have no income or anything like that. But I think a lot of people don't plan to do it long term or anything like that. But when they do, they kind of screw themselves over by not preparing for like the next stage of their life.
Is there a like stigma in this position, in this job? Because I mean, it's like legal there, and like here, I mean that like, you know, unless you work in this like doctor's office masseuse or whatever, like I don't even know anyone who's a masseuse, but like you assume there's certain things going on and people can look at people who work at those places in a certain way. Is it like that in Canada, or is it more like accepted?
It depends, I think, on the community. Like if you're in a more like liberal city, then no one really bats an eye. But if you're like in a smaller town, I think more people would have a problem with it. But generally, no. I've only had met a couple of people. Well, they were my friends that weren't okay with it. But like 99% of people were like, okay, cool, yeah, make all that money. Like I don't care as long as you're safe.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, that's good. And are there kind of like misconceptions, and again, like to Joe's point, maybe it's a little different there because it's more normal and accepted, but you know, here, like in America, it's like, oh, if you go to this place in Queens, there's a doorbell, and if you ring it 3 times, someone will let you in, and you can get a happy ending there. And it's like, that more, it's like a shady feel, that hush hush kind of thing. But there, is it just super open, or are there still like misconceptions that people have about like either the girls who work there, or even the type of guys who go in, where people would just think like, oh, these are just like, gross men who are like have nothing else to do? But we've had too many conversations on the show where like I know that can't be the case, right? Like that, I'm sure that's a misconception, and it's probably a pretty like diverse and wide range of the types of people going there.
Well, like a lot of types of guys will go. Most of them are like pretty average, everyday people. You get the odd weirdo from time to time, but like generally people who aren't within the industry or like don't really know anyone in the community will look at this type of work and say, oh yeah, like the guys are disgusting. Like who just like drives down the road, pulls over and goes in and gets a hand job and then continues about their day. So I know a lot of people see it that way, but a lot of the guys who come in, and I'm sure it's been said on the other podcasts, or the other episode, sorry, that like the guys who come in are honestly, they're just kind of lonely. You don't realize it, but like I had a session with a guy who's a 50-year-old virgin. There's guys who are divorced. There's guys whose wives haven't touched them in over 10 years. So it's actually really sad if you look at it that way.
And it's almost more of like, is it like, sure, even there's a sexual aspect to it, but like just a human connection? Like, do some of them just want to like talk and kind of like tell their stories to you, or like get to know you?
Oh yeah. Like when I was a receptionist, I'd have guys come in. So we had a bit of a lounge and there was a bar. Guys would come in and they'd spend all day there and we'd just talk and hang out. They'd order pizza, we'd have some snacks and all that good stuff. And you really get to know who they are over time, and like a lot of them like know all about my family and stuff like that. Totally true. I'm so sorry.
No, so you're like building actual like relationship with these people. Is it like is it like very client based to where the point where there's a certain guy that comes in, he's going to request you, or he'll like book you in advance? Like how does it work in that way?
So, I'll go back to the question before. I just wanted to say there is a few people who will book sessions just so you can talk in a quiet room. And they'll pay hundreds of dollars for the girl's undivided attention.
Wow.
I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, there's one guy who'd come in. He did, I think, a 7-hour session once, and he just talked to the girls the whole time.
Wow.
So that's like $1,000. Yeah, but so it depends on what spa you're working at. The place I initially worked at, you could book on an app, or you could call to book. Or you can just do a walk-in. So basically, you get into the building and you don't know who you want to see. So they take you into the room you're going to have the session in. And then I really hated this, but all the girls would go in one at a time and introduce themselves in their lingerie or like a sexy outfit. And then after all the girls have gone in, the receptionist goes in and he kind of talks with her. And he's like, oh, I'm looking for this. I like these 2 girls. Like, who would you recommend? And from there, they book the session. Whereas at the second place I worked, you could only call in and book, or you could walk in, and if you didn't know who you wanted to see, they have like a photo album. Oh, wow. So every girl at every single place you go, every girl has professional photos taken of them, and usually their faces aren't in it. But the guy will go through the book and he's like, okay, like I like this girl's body. Can you tell me more about her? And the receptionist will say, oh, like she's this, she's that, and from there he'll pick somebody.
Interesting. But it seems like just a place where you learn a lot about strangers and make a connection. Like you saying it, just like hanging out in the lounge or having regulars come in or people just seeking that type of human connection. It's like, it almost feels, I don't know, like a judgment-free like sanctuary kind of, where you can also get a hand job.
No, 100%. Yeah. It is like the most easygoing place you could possibly imagine, because I mean, for me especially, like I've done so many things, I can't judge people for wanting, like unique things, and vice versa. Like a guy's not going to come in and be like, oh, you're wearing this, or you would do that in session, you're disgusting. Like guys like generally just don't care. Mm-hmm. So it's usually drama free. Everybody gets along. You have your regulars coming in 3, 4, 5 times a week. And girls would come in just to hang out on their days off.
It's like its own little community right there.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
It is. It's a really small community and everybody knows each other.
Huh. Now, is there any kind of stories or particular clients or anything? Well, that's good that you're laughing already.
Okay.
Basically, here's open story time. We've come to that part of the episode because we assume you've seen some stuff. I mean, we've already got pooping in mouths, cottage cheese cum. Like it's been wild already. So is there anything you kind of haven't touched on or just like memorable, stories from your experience here?
Yeah, I guess there's 4 that stick out. One I mentioned in the email, so I don't know if you guys saw it. So I feel bad if you did because it's really just surprising. So there's this guy who comes in. He's really well known, and he'll book sessions upwards of like 6 hours. And he's like this cute old man. You go into session, turns out he's like really, really kinky. Like he has his stuff left there. So it could be like bondage or whips or like dildos and stuff like that. And I know in one session, a girl managed to fit 6 dildos up his ass at once. I wish I saw it, but I'm really glad I didn't. But then on another occasion, I was just chilling. This was at the first place I worked. I was just like hanging out at the reception talking to some of the other clients because everybody was hanging out at the front. And he comes out dressed as a dog and he's wearing leather. He's got the collar and the leash and he's like crawling. And the hostess is walking him like a dog and he had to bark. And I didn't know what to do because this guy was getting off on everyone else seeing him, be like demeaned like this. But there, there's like it's the guy's first time there. He's getting a drink. He's like opening up to the idea of going into a session. Then out comes this older man acting like a dog.
Yeah. And you said this is a guy who's like well known, like
very well known. Yeah.
So
very well known.
If he walks out and you're just it's your first time at this place, you're like, oh, I know that fucking guy.
If it's your first time there, no.
Oh, he's well known within the building. I thought this is like a famous person.
Oh no, there's been some famous people, but no, he like in the community itself, he's really active online. But at this particular spa, no, like he in the warmer months, he comes at least once or twice a week. And then there was a time my coworker told me she was in session with him, and he asked her to stick a wire up his urethra.
Oh no, sorry, I'm not judging. It hurts.
And me neither, but yeah, so that happened, and then there
I can't hear stuff like that.
I know, sorry. There was a time that a girl had a session. It was supposed to be 3 hours, and he was on the spectrum, and all he wanted for the entire 3 hours was for her to like verbally abuse him and like talk down to him because he has autism. And after 75 minutes, she's like, I can't do this anymore. She was coming out from time to time to get a drink and just like catch her breath. And then the guy was
75 minutes.
Yeah, 75 minutes in, she's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm done. Because they weren't even naked. But he wanted her to call him like the R word and like really like the worst things you could say to someone he wanted for 3 hours straight. And so obviously she ended the session. I had to go in and be like, hey, can I get, like $75 worth of like a session? I forget how much it is, but I could check. And he starts freaking out. He's like, no, you guys robbed me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm calling the cops on you. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I didn't know what to do. So I was calling my boss and it took her an hour to get there. But I also had to be the bodyguard, which I'm like 5 feet tall. I'm really small. It wasn't a good match. But anyways, eventually she gets there and she's able to get the money from him within seconds. And I thought they were going to just like beat the shit out of him, like my boss and her ex-husband. Yeah, so that one kind of shocked me. And then there was a time that there was a walk-in. Again, this was at the first place. There's crazier stories at this place than at the second one because it's a lot more professional there. There's a walk-in and all the girls are complaining about him. Like, he's not even looking up at them. He's not smiling. He's like barely engaging in conversation. So at the end, I go in. I'm like, oh, like, who did you like best? And he's not even looking at me. And he says some girl's name. And I'm like, there's not even a girl here that has that name, like nothing remotely close. He's like, oh, like the last girl. I'm like, oh, it's so and so. And he said, yeah. So I went to tell the girl, and like she's surprised, and like she was a bit uncomfortable. And if you're not comfortable going into session, you don't have to. But she decided to go in anyways. And then at the end, she was crying, and I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, did he hurt you? And she's like, no, like nothing of that happened. But during the session, he told me about how he murdered a guy. And he just got out of jail. Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? And like, he'd been coming in every single day that week. And so I go to my boss, and she's like, oh, well, we're not going to do anything about it. He brings a lot of money to the club. And, you know, if we banned every single criminal from coming here, we'd lose like half our business.
Wow. This is like if if this podcast was a physical location, it would basically be one of these spas. Like, but seriously, I mean, that one's interesting, a little scary. But yeah, it's like what you see, like just the spectrum of people, and like people just being, you know, in a way, just like being their most honest, shameless selves. And like that to observe, I imagine, or, you know, take part of, is just so interesting. You know, like I'm sure it seems, even just from talking to you, that's part of what's interesting. And, you know, like me and Joe doing the show, it's just that sort of like curiosity, I think, is just such a driving force for us. And, you know, obviously getting to know the people behind whatever it is, like a taboo fetish lifestyle or something. So it is kind of cool that you get to kind of have that opportunity there and meet all these people, and, you know, see them just completely living whatever their thing may be.
Yeah, the work is never the same.
It sounds like an exciting job.
Oh, yeah, very. It's hard to go back to a normal job.
Wow. Well, you know, we appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all of this, because it's very interesting to hear. I didn't know like the extent of these kind of parlors in Canada, so now I feel like I have some insight there.
Yeah, they seem pretty innocent until you go in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I thought it was just a lot simpler, but it seems like anything goes if you can pay. Well, yeah, it seems like you were at some interesting places, lenient places. But wow, yeah, thank you so much for taking us through that journey of a very interesting job that not maybe some of our listeners have, but I'm assuming a lot of our listeners don't. So thanks for that insight and and the stories.
Not a problem.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Well, I guess Canada is a little different than the United States, because that stuff does not happen here, at least to my knowledge. I don't know about, there's probably, I mean, I'm sure there is these like underground, you know.
Oh, there's something, but yeah. like
well,
I said,
I've heard of places everywhere. Being like, what are you saying? These places are everywhere? No,
in Canada.
I'm
saying like storefronts, like yeah. But here, I don't know.
How do they advertise it? What do they say?
I don't know. I don't remember, but I think massage. Like I think they lead with massage.
That's interesting.
You know,
I mean, I've heard of places.
We've got our passports. We're ready to go. I don't know why I had this sitting here. It's a sign.
Yeah, why do you have your passport? No, I had no idea that you know, it got down like that, where, you know, you can have someone shit in your mouth if you really want it. Someone will do it for you. So
that shocked me, and that
the price almost shocked me.
Exactly. It seems like unfair almost. It seems like a, you know, it's like a glitch almost in the Matrix. It's like, do people realize like they can go fulfill all their fantasies for like, look, I'm not saying it's like cheap. You're still paying hundreds of dollars, but
no,
if you have that
cheap,
money,
bro.
yes, for what you would think. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what it's like to like book a prostitute, but like it just feels like it would be more expensive.
Well, this, you get like a room, you get a massage, and then you get this experience or whatever you want, and it's gonna cost you not even $500. Like, you're fucking robbing the joint.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, I've never been involved in these sorts of things, but I've heard through the grapevine, and I just feel like there's no way. Like, I feel like that wouldn't happen in the United States. Like, in the United States, you know, it's an expensive country.
Prices would be jacked up. Canadians are too nice. They could raise the prices there easily, and maybe they should a little bit, and then pay the girls more. Yeah, you know.
There you go.
But
oh boy.
Yeah, I love learning like the logistics of a job like that, of like how it runs, how the money's split, like, you know, the hiring process, asking about it. It's just so interesting, because like for the people doing it, you know, like her, like it's still just her job, you know, like she said, while she's doing her job, like she's distracted sometimes. She's like, oh, when do I get to eat lunch? What am I having for dinner? Except instead of like putting spreadsheets together, she's just jerking it, just doing her thing.
Jerking penis. You know what I mean? Yeah, very interesting. I also just love how she was so very nonchalant about the entire thing, as if, you know, it's just like she was a chef. You know, like, yeah, you know, comes in and you do whatever and you see what people want and you kind of ship it out. Like, it was, I don't know, it was very interesting. And to hear some of those like stories, I mean, I can't even, like, I'm trying to picture what this place looks like in my mind and I have no idea. Like, I'm trying to like figure out what
like,
this
is it like luxurious? Is it like sleazy?
But it just sounds,
is it like,
yeah, like it just sounds so unnatural to me, because it's like you walk in and then you look through this fucking book of faceless women.
That's a little strange. That feels weird.
And then you pick two of them and then you go in the room and then it's like already expected of like, here's what's, you know what I mean? I don't know. That just kind of,
I get what you're saying. Like,
and
there's
then you like hang out and have pizza in the living room. Like, you know, I mean, that's great. I just, obviously I'm not used to that. So it just sounds very foreign to me. But you know, that's why I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there, it exists, it's real, and there's our inside look at be working at an erotic massage parlor.
Yep. And yeah, good for you, Canada. Anyway, anyone out there who wants to be a part of the show, don't hesitate to hit us up. Like I said earlier, you can hit us up directly at our email, oplpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, oplshow.com, and send us an email through there.
Yes, follow us on Instagram at OPL Podcast. If you want to become a patron and get those bonus episodes, head over to patreon.com/OPL Show. Leave a rating, review, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We appreciate it.
Yep, that is all. See you guys next time.